Uh-oh.
Up in her last two fights. Good way hitting him from that way down.
Welcome to the motherfucking relay. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. The sights and sounds in Germany ahead of this weekend's IBF featherweight title fight between Nina Meinke and Daniela Bermudez. Tail of the tape. They seem about even in terms of height, in terms of length, but Nina Meinke is the naturally bigger fighter. Nina Meinke has fought as high as 135 pounds, whereas Daniela has fought as low as 115. Daniela, who has held titles at Superfly, Bantam, and Super Bantam, now fighting at Feather. She's the naturally smaller fighter, slimmer fighter. Oddly enough, she's the bigger puncher. That if there's a puncher here, it really is Daniela more than Nina, even though Nina's bigger. Bigger, so to speak, in terms of build and bone structure.
It's a tough fight to edge.
Promoted by P2M Promotions, Germany-based outfit. That's the same P2M that won the purse bid for the Ennis versus Chukadzian rematch we've been hearing all about.
It's the same P2M that's promoting this fight.
And that's intriguing. Nina Meinke is a southpaw, whereas Daniela is an orthodox fighter. Nina Meinke is 31, where Daniela is 35. Nina Meinke will have home field advantage. She is the house fighter and the home fighter, as this fight is set to go down in Germany. Sporting a professional record of 18 wins with 3 losses, no draws, 4 knockouts, having been knocked out once in 21 professional bouts. To Daniela Bermudez, who sports a professional record of 32 wins with 4 losses, 3 draws, 12 knockouts, having been knocked out once in 39 professional bouts.
The more experienced fighter of the two, the more seasoned fighter of the two, the former champion, the edge and strength and experience is on Daniela Bermudez's side. But will that be enough in Germany? Will that be enough against Nina? The night of, Nina will not have fought in roughly 11 months, where Daniela will not have fought in 12. Last in action in September of last year opposite the ring, Lucretia Manzur, who she stopped in 3 rounds. Currently on a 3-fight winning streak since having been stopped by Amanda Serrano way back there in March of 2021. She took all of 2022 off and came back last year, fought 3 times. Similar schedule of activity for Nina Meinke. She fought 3 times last year, but overall, she's been the more active fighter of the two the last few years, not just last year. She fought 4 times in 2022 and 3 times in 2023. 3 times last year. What's going to happen this one? It's hard to say. It's really hard to say. Persistence, power, and experience would have to go to Daniela Bermudez because she is the more powerful puncher, the more experienced fighter, and we know she's persistent. She likes to put the pressure on. Now, if she has a drawback, it's that she has heavy feet. She is a flat-footed plotter, slow on her feet with slower hands. Slower, at least, than Nina, who's got agility, athleticism, speed in those feet, and speed in those hands. At least more than Daniela. Moves her head more, changes levels more, bends at the waist and knees. If it were somewhere else, I might give the edge to Daniela if it were somewhere other than Germany, but the fact this is going down in Nina's neck of the woods and it could be a very competitive fight, I almost don't want to pick because in this situation anything can happen, but what's the fun in riding the fence? I'm going to go with Nina. I'm going to go with Nina Meinke to become this division's IBF champion
and a full-fledged champion for the first time, on the premise that Daniela, while very tough and experienced and a stronger puncher than Nina, she has slower feet and slower hands. Her combinations can be somewhat monotonous.
Predictable.
Nina moves around a little more, angles off a little more. She's got home field advantage, and that matters to where, so long as it's competitive, she may get consideration.
She just needs to try not to get ragdolled. It's for 12 3-minute rounds. In case you're not aware, this ain't for 10 twos. This is for 12 threes.
And that has to have come from Nina Meinke's side of things, since it's her side promoting the show. I don't know that that favors her. More time in the ring is more time you have to move around, more time you have to try to stay out of trouble, more time under tension, more time under pressure.
Because Daniela's going to apply it. For Daniela, the assignment is a straightforward assignment. Put it on, Nina. From start to finish, you stay on her, and you put it on her.
And that makes the fight tough to edge. But I'm leaning towards Nina Meinke to move around and out-hustle the older, slower fighter, because Daniela, while more experienced, she is about 4 years older than Nina, and like I said, she is slower. Slower on her feet with slower hands.
And that may decide the contest, so I'm going to go with Nina tenuously. Nina Meinke to win a points decision this weekend in Germany and become this division's newly crowned IBF champion. We'll see if the prediction sticks.
In men's heavyweight news ahead of this weekend's mega match, Anthony Joshua spent an extended period at the Grand Arrivals for the Daniel Dubois fight, taking selfies and signing autographs for the fans. I'll never forget, I started boxing late, so I looked up to a lot of people, and I've been on the other side of the fence. I haven't always been on the red carpet, so I always understand how to treat people now that I'm on the red carpet. I'm never gonna just turn my nose up at people. That's just not my style. I think that's a big part of the reason Anthony Joshua has had as many corporate sponsorships and endorsements as he's had, the kind that most fighters wish they had, even very good ones.
Skillful, that are just not good with people, not good with the fans. Shakur Stevenson almost immediately comes to mind.
Is he a good boxer? Yes, he's a very good boxer. Skillful. Very good at what he does, but he's not good with the people. He's not good with the fans. How many times have you seen him lashing out?
Laying into fans, saying he doesn't care what people think.
Don't think he'd be arguing with them as much as he does on Twitter, in his Twitter page, in the spaces, if it really were that he don't care what they think. This is a kid who's good at what he does, but he's not good with people. Former U.S. Olympian and 3-division champion who, you notice, he doesn't have the corporate sponsorships of an Anthony Joshua. Big brands using him as a spokesperson. He doesn't have that. That is an additional arm of revenue for the boxer, which allows them to make money outside of the ring. That not all the money you make from fighting.
So it's obvious that Anthony Joshua has more fans, more followers, more supporters than a Shakur Stevenson, but he also has more followers than a Gervonta Davis. He's not good with people either.
Where Anthony Joshua took extra time out to spend with the fans at his grand arrival, Gervonta Davis outright skipped his grand arrival for his last fight with Frank Martin earlier this year. I didn't forget.
Saying that the promotion for the fight was ass, well, you being there and spending time with the fans, that would have helped to promote that fight.
But he skipped it. Another self-entitled, self-important American fighter that thinks he's God's gift to boxing, when in reality, you don't have the same amount of followers that Anthony has. That's why he's ranked right behind Canelo Alvarez as the second highest earning boxer in all of boxing, and you're not even on the list.
It's a little attitude.
Another telltale sign of the American boxer's fall from grace, because it used to be that you could see a Sugar Ray Leonard in commercials for anything from automobiles to soda pop.
Being gracious with the fans pays.
Marvelous Marvin Hagler, one of the most prolific, persistent fighters inside of the ring, one of the most vicious, was doing pizza commercials outside of the ring.
But you kids, you're too vicious. You're too Billy Badass to understand the relationship you're supposed to have with the fans, the people you hope pay to see you.
You're too tough. You came up in a rough neighborhood.
Okay, Punky Brewster.
That's why, for as much as these young American boxers like to sing their own praises, their celebrity, their star, it pales in comparison to what you used to see in the American boxing scene.
What you now see in the British one, when an Anthony Joshua takes time out at the grand arrivals to spend time with the fans, taking pictures and signing autographs.
I remember a couple of years ago, Tyson Fury tried to hold that against him, tried to paint that out to be a negative, that Anthony is good with people, he's media trained. He tried to call him the plastic Nigerian.
He should be more obnoxious. He should be screaming at the top of his lungs about how he wants to catch a body in the ring like Wilder did.
Wilder never did pop in America like AJ popped in the UK and abroad. No, Wilder didn't have sponsorships like Hugo Boss and Range Rover.
Nope.
See, in the previous era, the Mayweather era, which I often talked about, Mayweather was a bit of a bad boy, a bit of a rebel, and that worked for him. And a lot of unoriginal people tried to take their cues from him, borrow pages from his playbook.
I'm gonna be the bad guy. I'm gonna make them hate me.
So that when they do, you cry about it. When they don't like you or your obnoxious attitude, you think you're being alienated, ostracized. The Clarissa Shields, an Olympic double gold medalist who's been undisputed more than once.
She's horrible with people.
A gold medalist, let alone a double gold medalist, should come back to Kellogg's sponsorships, or General Mills, Wheaties.
Frosted Flakes, Fruit Loops.
That she's not the face of a cosmetic line. That she doesn't have major sponsorships is a direct byproduct of her attitude, because she thinks she ain't gotta play nice.
You don't, but it's gonna cost you, because there's no such thing as a free lunch.
Same way you don't have to adjust your attitude is the same way that fans don't have to take a shine to you. Major brands don't have to sponsor you. So when you see a fighter that, at least fiscally, commercially, is more successful than any of these aforementioned fighters, it's because he's a lot more gracious than any of these aforementioned fighters. And he hasn't lost sight of that. I don't think it's staged. I think he is that person. He is gracious in that way. That is his way, but there are perks. There are benefits to being that way, though with success.
Success breeds envy.
Anthony Joshua was asked about Anthony Fowler's Talk Sport interview. Daniel Dubois hurting him in sparring. Anthony said, one of the coaches called me and was like, he's a snake. That was never like that. He's trying to promote CBD, isn't it?
Success breeds envy.
So if it's the way that Anthony says it is, and it's not the way that Anthony Fowler says it is, why would Anthony lie, or why would Anthony exaggerate, embellish?
Success breeds envy.
So that when an Anthony Fowler chooses to exaggerate about a story so he can tear down an Anthony Joshua, put him in a negative light, or a Farrell Crotch regularly takes shots at him, unwarranted shots, downplays him and his success and his abilities, you'll know what's behind it.
Success breeds envy.
People don't like to see you doing good, or at minimum doing better than they're doing.
No.
And being good, being gracious with all the success you're having, they start to tell themselves, oh, this guy's too perfect. It's all fake. He's media trained.
Let's say that he were. Let's say that's the case. That still makes that guy more successful than you.
So who should a young fighter take their cues from? Him or you?
The answer really chaps their ass.
The reality of it, it's not that you're so real,
Too real for people?
It's that you're obnoxious. You're an asshole. You're not as likable, not as marketable. You don't have that.
Whatever that is, you don't have it.
And you're jealous of a guy that does. You can't just be happy for him. And all the success that he's having, all the things he's had to overcome to get to this point. Not you.
You're jealous.
Old green-eyed monster is never far behind where successful people are. Now, as it pertains to this weekend's fight, former undisputed champion Lennox Lewis shares his take on the Joshua versus Dubois heavyweight clash. Lewis, who achieved everything possible in boxing and had his share of huge domestic clashes, believes such an occasion that could see a crowd in excess of 90,000 in attendance will be something to remember. It's awesome. It's definitely comparable to a world title fight, Lewis told The Ring. You've got two British fighters that are fighting, so it's epic. Every time there is a big all-British fight, it's always epic. It's just as epic as me and Frank Bruno, me and Gary Mason. The recently turned 59-year-old feels while Joshua has long been on the top table of world boxing, Dubois is now looking to claim his position. Dubois has been the guy that nobody has been looking at for a while, and he wants his glory, said Lewis. I think he looks at Anthony Joshua as the golden boy on the scene. Everyone is awing over him. He's got the fans, the big promoter, and he's got the spotlight because that's the way it was, but now it's his time. He's been sitting back on the back burner, and he has an opportunity. Now let's see if he can do it. Lewis feels Anthony Joshua has one decided advantage going into the meeting of the two dynamic power punchers who both post knockout ratios near or higher than 90%. His advantage is his experience, said Lewis. The fact he's been in with Alexander Usyk twice, he's boxed over in America, big stadium events, and has high-profile trainers. However, Lewis isn't writing off Dubois, who has grown considerably with recent wins over Jarrell Miller and Filip Prgovic, the latter of which earned him the interim IBF title that has since been upgraded to the full title. Don't count out the guy who's been waiting for a while. Just because he's been quiet doesn't mean he's not deadly, countered Lewis. He was able to put Usyk down on the ground. Editor's note, the aforementioned knockdown wasn't scored as a knockdown.
This is something not a lot of people can do.
The hunger. Nobody knows his hunger as much as he does. Everybody sees him sitting back and going through the motions. I think a big telling was his last fight against Filip Prgovic, and the one before that against Jarrell Miller. I think that was the turning point for him when he got rid of Miller. He was in a fight, fighting a guy that was pretty rugged, and he decides in a sense that you can't stay with me, and he stepped on the gas a little bit and stopped him, and that's what he was supposed to do. There was no way Miller was supposed to go the distance with him. I was saying that before the fight, and he proved me right. With so much on the line, Lewis says the deciding factor could be steely determination. It's just heart. Who's got the guts to really go for it, he said. Both have the talent to do it. They've got the power. Now, who's going to step up and say, this is mine?
Ultimately, how does he see things playing out?
I think it can go either way because the both of them have a good shot, he said before making an outright prediction. Anthony has the advantage. Daniel has been there in the background. He wants it. He's been dreaming about it all his life. If he goes for it, it will pan itself out. As far as experience, Dubois has gotten a lot of experience in his last few fights. I think right now it's pointing to Joshua, but it's not pointing at him a lot. Daniel's done the work. It's his opportunity. It's up to him to step forward. Anything can happen in this. I'm looking at the Joe Joyce fight, and Joe was catching him with jabs. I believe Anthony has a way better jab than Joyce. That's what's going to be Daniel's weakness. If he doesn't get his jab going, if he allows AJ to get his jab going first, that's a problem. He then offered a clear prediction. Joshua by stoppage. I don't think it's going to be an early fight. I think it's probably going to be in the later rounds. Daniel's not going to come and lay down.
So I have it.
Anthony Joshua by way of knockout after the midway point. What you can expect to see from Daniel are double jabs, triple jabs, all while changing levels coming forward. He doesn't want to get caught with Anthony's jabs coming in, but Anthony is a little taller and a little longer, lighter on his feet, to create space between him and Daniel to get the jab out. And Daniel doesn't really slip or roll or ride punches.
He doesn't move his head.
He'll try to work around the jab by changing levels, coming in at a slight crouch to bring in looping rights.
Load him up.
Anthony's got to stay on his toes in the early goings of the fight, get some punches out, get some punches off, and he can pick up the pace on Daniel as the fight progresses, land with more authority.
He doesn't want to trade with him early, doesn't want to sit in the pocket, sitting on his punches early.
He's got to move and punch. He's got to box, break him down round by round.
He can do it.
Daniel's dangerous, but limited. You know exactly what kind of fight he's looking for, and you can't let him have that.
If he wants to fight, you've got to box.